1966. A bathroom mirror still clouded from the shower, and a woman already working. Her fingers scooped a trembling pink jelly from a glass jar, spread it through damp hair in long, cold strokes, and began winding each section onto a foam roller. No cord, no heat, no tutorial playing on a screen. Just wet hair, steady hands, and the quiet click of a roller clip locking into place. By morning, the curls would be set, the volume would be architectural, and not one hot tool would have touched her head. The jar cost less than $1. The routine cost nothing but patience. And the hair held for days. These are 15 unspoken hair rules that were standard practice throughout the 1960s, and most of them still work. They vanished not because they failed, but because they were too slow to sell. One night of preparation became a shelf of styling products. A single scarf became a silk accessories category. A comb technique became a volume powder, a root spray, and a multi-device styling system. The rules never stopped working. They just stopped being profitable. Number 15. She set her hair before she went to sleep. A woman stood at the bathroom sink with a jar of Dippity-Doo, the pink setting gel that hit drugstore shelves in 1965. The gel had a cool, wobbly texture, almost like dessert, and it smelled faintly medicinal beneath a layer of floral fragrance. She raked it through each damp section, wound the hair around a foam or mesh roller, and clipped it shut. Then she went to bed. By morning, the curls had dried into shape with no heat damage, no split ends, no electricity. Today, heatless curl kits sell online for $15 to $30, packaged with satin rods and instruction cards. The original version was a glass jar and a set of pink rollers from the drugstore. The technology was patience. Number 14. She never brushed her curls out flat. Once the rollers came out, a woman in the 1960s did not drag a paddle brush straight through the set. She used a wide-tooth plastic pick or her fingers, loosening each curl just enough to let it spring. The teeth of the pick made a light scratching sound against the scalp, and the curl bounced back the moment the tension released. Brushing flat would have killed the shape in seconds. Today, there are curl refresh sprays, reactivating mists, and second-day curl creams. The original rule was simpler. Do not undo what you spent the night building. Number 13. She teased underneath and never on top. A rat-tail comb moved through the lower layers only, tiny teeth rasping backward against the hair shaft in short strokes until a cottony pad of volume formed at the roots. That layer stayed smooth, almost glassy, and it draped over the teased section like fabric over a frame. A daughter watched from the doorway, seeing only the finished surface, never the architecture beneath it. Today, volume powders and root-lifting sprays promise the same lift in a bottle. The old rule required no product at all, just a comb, a direction, and the discipline to stop before the damage showed. Number 12. She smoothed the outer shell with a single brush. After the teasing was done, a boar bristle brush came out. The bristles were stiff enough to guide, but soft enough not to collapse the back-combed cushion underneath. One long stroke from crown to ends, repeated 3 or 4 times, and the surface turned satin. The bristle hiss was quiet, almost like a whisper across paper. That smooth shell is what made the style look effortless when the effort had already been done underneath. Today, finishing creams, shine serums, and smoothing balms line an entire shelf for the same result. The brush cost less than $2. The skill was free. Number 11. She sprayed once and stopped touching. A purple aerosol can of Aquanet, which had been on store shelves since around 1961, sat on every vanity and in every bathroom cabinet. A woman held it 10 inches from her head, pressed the nozzle, and let the sharp lacquer cloud settle. The hiss lasted 2 seconds. The smell was unmistakable, chemical, and bright, the kind of scent that clung to a bathroom for 20 minutes. After the spray landed, Her hands dropped. She did not fluff. She did not adjust. She did not touch. Today there are flexible hold sprays, brushable finish sprays, humidity-resistant sprays, and touchable hold sprays. The 1960s rule needed one can. The discipline was in the hands, not the formula. Number 10. She protected her set in public without apology. A square nylon scarf folded into a triangle, knotted under the chin, covered the rollers on the way to the market, the post office, or the neighbor's door. The fabric made a papery rustle when she turned her head, and the knot sat just tight enough to keep the pins from shifting. No one stared. Half the women on the block were wearing one. Today, silk bonnets, satin-lined caps, and sleep turbans are marketed as premium hair protection. The 1960s version was a 30-cent scarf, and the confidence to wear it past the mailbox. Nobody could patent the knot. Number 9. She dried under the hood and did not rush. The Lady Chic Consolette sat in living rooms and bedrooms across the country through the 1950s and the 1960s. A hard plastic hood on a flexible arm with a low, warm motor hum. A woman sat beneath it with her rollers locked in place, the warm vinyl rim pressing gently against her forehead, and she waited. She read a magazine. She drank her coffee. She let the heat do what it needed to do. 30 minutes. Sometimes 40. Today, high-speed dryers promise salon results in half the time. The old dryer did not promise speed. It promised patience. And the set lasted the week because the hair had actually dried all the way through. Number 8. She made a salon set last until the next appointment. A weekly salon visit gave her the shape. Bobby pins and a thin hairnet kept it alive every night after. The metal click of each pin pressing flat against the skull, the light scratch of the net stretching over the crown, and then sleep. No restyling in the morning, no second-day routine. Just the pins out, a light brush, and the shape held. Today, weekly blowout subscriptions charge $30 to $50 a visit for the same promise. The original version cost the price of one salon set and a packet of bobby pins from the drugstore. The rest was maintenance, not repurchase. There is something worth noticing here. Every one of these rules protected a shape, not a product result, not a color, not a trend. A physical architecture that was built once and maintained through careful handling. The teasing created the frame. The shell covered it. The spray locked it. The scarf guarded it. The pins preserved it overnight. The entire system was about structure before beauty, and that is exactly what separated the routine from what replaced it. Modern products promise the same shapes, but they skip the engineering and sell the finish. Number 7. She chose height by occasion. The beehive was not everyday hair. It emerged around 1960, and it was an event style, built with heavy backcombing, a padded base, and a hard lacquered shell that could hold its shape through a dinner, a dance, or a photograph. The height was deliberate. Church hair was lower. Market hair was softer. A party called for architecture. A woman matched the volume to the room. Today, clip-in volume pieces and half-up extensions try to add height on demand. The old rule was not about adding height. It was about choosing it. Number 6. She rolled the ends outward, not under. Large mesh rollers wound the last 2 inches of hair away from the face, creating a flip at the ends that opened the silhouette. The mesh dragged slightly against damp hair as it wound, and the curl set in an outward direction that framed the jaw instead of closing it. An older sister stood behind her at the mirror, pressing the roller clip flat without being asked, her thumb already knowing the angle. Today, round brush hot tools, rotating stylers, and flip curl attachments sell the same bend. The old roller and a wet set delivered it overnight. No outlet required. Number 5. She slept carefully, a satin pillowcase under the cheek, a scarf tied loosely over the rollers. Pins pressed flat so nothing dug into the scalp. The cool slip of the satin kept the hair from catching, and the scarf kept the rollers from shifting when she turned. Sleep was part of the style, not separate from it. A mother turned her head once on the pillow, adjusted a single pin by feel in the dark, and settled without waking. Today, overnight styling systems, silk pillowcase sets, and heatless rod kits are sold as innovations. The innovation happened decades earlier. It just was not called a product. Number 4. She tinted her roots at home and told no one. Clairol Nice and Easy arrived in 1965, and a woman could color her hair in her own bathroom with a pair of crinkly plastic gloves and a squeeze bottle. The chemical smell was sharp, impossible to ignore, so she opened the window or turned on the exhaust fan and set a kitchen timer. The dye sat for the exact number of minutes printed on the box, not longer. She rinsed until the water ran clear. The goal was not a dramatic change. The goal was that no one noticed at all. Today, root cover sprays, color depositing conditioners, and touch-up powders offer faster concealment. Home color in the 1960s still required following the label directions carefully, doing a patch test, wearing the gloves, and respecting the timer. Those steps matter just as much now. Any home hair color, then or now, calls for reading the instructions, doing a patch test, and never using the product near the eyes or brows. Number 3. She respected the timing on every chemical she used. Whether it was a home color treatment or a setting product left in too long, the rule was the same. The timer was not a suggestion. A woman watched the minute hand on the kitchen clock or listened for the click of a wind-up timer on the counter. When the time was done, she rinsed. Not 5 minutes later. Not after one more task. The chemical note in the air was a reminder, not decoration. Today, instant color solutions and rapid processing formulas promise to shorten the wait. The original rule was never about speed. It was about respect for what the product could do if you ignored the clock. Number 2. She used hot rollers when she needed speed. The Clairol Kindness Instant Hair Setter arrived in 1968, priced at around $30. The rollers heated on small posts inside a plastic case, and a woman grabbed each one quickly, fingers knowing exactly how long she could hold the warm plastic before it stung. The roller clack, as each one locked into a clip, was the sound of a weekday morning running on time. 5 minutes to heat, 10 minutes to set. The curls were not as architectural as an overnight wet set, but they were ready before the coffee cooled. Today, multi-stylers, rotating irons, and all-in-one hot tools crowd the same shelf. The Kindness set did one thing. It did it fast. Number 1. She washed her hair around the set, not through it. A bottle of Breck shampoo, the tall yellow bottle with the portrait on the label, sat in the shower. But a woman in the 1960s did not wash her hair every day. She washed it once or twice a week, and between washes, the set was the priority. She cleaned her scalp carefully, she rinsed without destroying the curl pattern, and she let the style carry through until the next wash. A daughter watched her mother lean over the kitchen sink, water running just at the hairline, a towel pressed against the forehead to keep the set dry, and understood without being told. The clean hair was not the goal. The shape was the goal. The clean hair served the shape. Today, scalp care routines, co-wash cycles, and wash day schedules are sold as new science. The 1960s woman already had a wash schedule. It revolved around the architecture she had built the night before, and every rinse, every pin, every scarf was in service of a structure that lasted because she decided it would. The bathroom mirror has cleared by now. The rollers are out. The comb is back in the drawer, and the shape that a woman built the night before is still holding. Not because of a product, but because of a sequence she learned by watching and never had to be told twice. The rules were never printed on a bottle, they lived in the hands, and most of them still work exactly the way they always did. Which of these did your mother or grandmother do every week? Leave it in the comments. And if you want more forgotten beauty rules from the decades women still remember, subscribe.